Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This video is a quick tutorial on making pavement for dioramas, as well as a couple other related techniques and ideas that I'll be using in this little project. The first thing I did was get some of this spackling compound, which I think you can find at basically any hardware store. I'm not exactly sure. It was a gift to me at one point. But I spread this all over the bare wooden base, because I use wooden bases instead of foam board or anything. Mostly just because I have a lot of them already. They're usually offcuts of things. So I spread the spackle on with this white thing, which I believe is from a scrapbooking kit or a bookbinding kit. I'm not really sure what it does in that context, but here I used it as basically a spackle knife and spread the compound all over the place and made sure to get it pretty smooth so that it looked at least mostly like concrete. Because the spackle has a really nice natural texture that can be brought out with paint and stuff, and you'll see that later on. Before it had dried, I used a piece of foam and just kind of tapped it against the spackle in some areas to give it some texture, just to make it look a little bit more cracked and old. And then once I did that and let it dry, I painted it with just a gray acrylic. Make sure this is very dry before you do this, before the painting stage, because I'm not sure what will happen if you don't wait for it to dry before you paint it, but I'm pretty sure it just makes a mess, so I don't recommend doing it. So I waited 24 hours before I did this, and it went on pretty seamlessly. I also varied the gray in different places, so in some areas I put more paint on and made it darker, and in others I left it a little bit thinner and lighter. And it just creates a little bit of variation and makes it look more interesting and natural. In the more recessed areas, I put some black wash. Again, this is just acrylic. And I made sure to put it on very lightly. You could, of course, make the pavement darker if you wanted to. So instead of like a gray, you could go with more of a dark gray or even a black. I went with just this kind of normal gray, just for simplicity, because this was the first time I've actually made pavement, and I was just kind of testing out how it would look, and I think it turned out pretty well so far. So the black areas, you want to make sure those are really only in the cracks, and what's on the surface of it you want to really thin out and just kind of spread around and blend it into the gray more. Pavement seems to always have these strange little brown splotches on it, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're rust spots, probably from vehicles or what have you. But adding these is pretty simple. It's just a little bit of extra detail, as long as they're obviously not too obvious or call too much attention. They can add, just that extra amount of detail. So for this, it was just very thin brown acrylic paint, and I just kind of tapped it on there at random, and then made sure to really just flatten them out and thin them out and make sure they weren't as obvious as a bunch of brown polka dots. So next up is the tire marks from where the car is drifting. These again are just acrylic paint marks. They're just kind of there are 2 layers. So the first layer was a very thin wash of brown that just kind of goes in the direction of the car, and then the second layer was a much thicker line of black that just kind of goes over that and darkens it and makes it look a little bit more, I guess, stark in its contrast. And then next was to add the smoke coming off of the tires. And this was attached using just regular old hot glue. I use hot glue a lot in most of my scratch-built kind of dioramas that aren't really, you know, I don't really use it to hold vehicles together necessarily, but it's a very easy glue to work with, although it does have some drawbacks, of course. If you've ever used it, you'll know, but like those strings that it produces. You could, of course, get more involved with this piece and, you know, paint the tire smoke. You could modify the front wheels of the car to make them look like they're turning. You could do a lot of things to really bring this to life a little bit more than I did, but this was more of a proof of concept for Pavement than anything else, just to see if I could do it, and I think it turned out pretty good. The car is also like a vintage Matchbox car, I think. Obviously I'm not a car guy as much as I am a tank guy, but so I don't really know. But I was kind of afraid that if this was worth any kind of money, that, you know, I didn't want to modify it too much. I did paint the headlights, and I did paint on the taillights because they were sorely missing from the actual car. But again, it's just acrylic, so that can come off pretty easily. And I did glue the car down in a couple of spots, just with 2 wheels. But again, it's just hot glue. It can come off. You can just scrape it off. It's not like it's permanent glue or anything. It's not like super glue or anything. The tire smoke was sort of a pain to get into the right place, just because it's a fiddly thing to work with in general. Just the fiber, I think it's just a big cotton ball is what I got it off of. I'm not exactly sure what that was. The last thing I did was paint the sides of the diorama in black, just to kind of make it look a little bit more finished, because bare wood on the sides of dioramas really does not look good. This is just black acrylic. It's not special at all, but it works. And there it is. There's the final product spinning around, and I'll put some better shots here too. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different. Obviously it's not a tank, it's a completely different kind of vehicle, but hopefully you found it interesting, and obviously the main focus was the pavement. Of course, there are different ways that you can apply this basic knowledge. This is just a basic tutorial on painting and weathering pavement. You could take this many steps beyond this and make it a lot more involved and probably better looking. I think for this scale, this was all I needed to do. If you like what you saw, let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I'll try to get those out in the future. So, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.